Hello, welcome to Craig's Gun Channel. This week we're going to discuss the recently submitted bill H.R. 1263. This bill seeks to amend Section 5845A of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to include any semi-automatic rifle or shotgun that has the capacity to accept a detachable ammunition feeding device. This is essentially all semi-automatic rifles and shotguns, as they almost all either already utilize a detachable magazine or have the capacity to be converted. This would classify these firearms to the same rules as all other weapons defined within the National Firearms Act, or NFA, which includes such items as machine guns, silencers, and short-barreled rifles. For anyone who has not purchased an NFA firearm, such as a machine gun or a silencer, the process requires completion of an application, payment of a $200 tax, photos, fingerprints, a background check, which historically takes anywhere from 6 months to a year, and once you finally jump through all these hoops, you can finally receive your firearm with your tax stamp, which must accompany the firearm wherever it may be. You cannot let anyone use your firearm unless you're with them. You cannot transfer them across state lines without additional paperwork and approval, which also takes time, and you must store them in such a manner that no one except yourself would have access to them. Furthermore, you're not able to sell a firearm such as this without utilizing a dealer, so that the new potential purchaser would have to go through all of those same hoops that you went through. So how does a 6-month to a year wait, photos, fingerprints, background check, and an additional fee of $200 sound before you purchase your AR-15 or Ruger 1022? This bill has not come for a vote yet. It was introduced on February 14th and has been sent to the House Ways and Means Committee for review. I'll be watching this legislation, and if it starts to gain traction, we'll let you know. But as with all legislation, you should contact your representatives and let them know your views. We elected them for a reason, to represent us, so make sure they know where you stand. As they generally like to work more in the shadows, H.R. 1263 may be too bold of a direct attack on our Second Amendment freedoms to make it to vote. However, be assured that what they want is the abolishment of our rights, and they've been chipping away at them for a long time. Every once in a while, they slip up and say exactly what they want, but they're not generally so direct and open.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in.
Now let's talk about the bump stock ban set to take place Tuesday the 26th of March. As of now, the bump stock ban is still in effect, meaning that as of Tuesday, ownership of one of these devices is a felony, punishable by up to 10 years in prison and fines that could hit $250,000. There have been multiple legal challenges brought in several states asking for the courts to intervene and at least issue an injunction until a full legal decision can be made. In one case in Utah, an injunction was in fact given, but just for the single defendant in that case. So that person can keep their bump stock until legal challenges are completed, but that does nothing for the over 500,000 bump stock owners out there. The primary issue is the complete reversal of the ATF's opinion on what defines a machine gun, a definition that has stood for several decades. That being, a machine gun is defined as being a firearm that fires more than one shot automatically with one action of the trigger. The ATF, under political pressure, has utilized circular logic to allow for them to redefine that provision to mean pulling the trigger the first time to set into motion a series of events that will allow for multiple shots to be fired in sequence. The fact that the trigger itself is actually being pressed one time or being used a single time for each single shot is basically irrelevant to their new interpretation. In response to arguments that this is a complete reversal of interpretation of law and of themselves coincidentally, as they had previously stated that bump stocks are not machine guns, and that the definition means what it says, not what they want it to mean, well, their response is basically, now that they've decided that bump stocks are machine guns, there's no argument that can be made, as they're the ones who get to decide whether they are or not. Or as any child will tell you about their parents, it's because they say so. Logic and facts are irrelevant. Last Friday, in the District of Columbia U.S. Court of Appeals, the judges heard testimony from the legal representatives of both the ATF and several plaintiffs. The hope is that they will find an injunction is in the best interest of the citizens to allow time for a full legal challenge to be heard. The reality is that the definition was determined and made very clear when the original legislation on machine guns was passed in 1934. The ATF is a non-elected bureaucratic division given responsibility for enforcing that legislation. However, they've attempted to hijack the legislative process by reinterpreting the law's definition to meet their agenda. Should this ATF action stand and the final ruling be that bump stocks are illegal, the precedent it sets could be disastrous. As I was preparing this video to upload, I received some news that the District of Columbia U.S. Court of Appeals has made a decision that the effective date of the bump stock rule be administratively delayed in its application. However, that stay is only applicable to the named defendants in the appeal. This is not an injunction on the ruling itself. Similar to the Utah decision, the appellants listed in the appeal have been given a reprieve. For the rest of the over 500,000 bump stock owners, the ATF's unconstitutional ruling remains in effect. As of Tuesday, possession of one of these devices will be a felony. I am very disappointed in this decision, as the possible Pandora's box of additional unconstitutional, bureaucratic, agenda-driven policies remains open. A request for an emergency motion to expand this decision to cover all owners of bump stocks has been made. However, as of right now, that has not been granted. So please contact your representatives in Congress to let them know how you feel, and remember to subscribe to keep up to date. As I learn more, I'll let you know. And as always, until next time, stay safe.